welcome to meet the candidates. The Frankfort Plant Board is giving us an opportunity to talk with the candidates so that we can find out a lot more about where they stand on some of these issues. We'll cover as many as we can in this short period. But I do want to alert you that there will be a candidate forum on April 26th. Stay alert for that. Attend if you can. Watch, send in questions. Let's become as involved as we can in this process. And then make sure that you join us on May the 22nd for the election returns for our primary. We'll try to pick it up there at the clerk's office and bring you the vote as soon as it comes in. So stay alert for those two events. Now, on this edition of Meet the Candidates, I'm talking with Lynn Bowers. And most of you know her already. She is running for a seat on the City Commission. And Lynn, the first thing I want to do is check with you, see what you regard as being the main issues that are coming before the commission right now and for this upcoming term.
Well, there's a lot of issues on the table right now. We have a relatively new city manager that came on with us last summer, and we are doing some, I guess you would call it reconstructing of composition down there at City Hall. So we are undergoing a lot of changes. We just, as you probably know, and the public has read in the press, received an $8 million grant to refurbish 2nd Street. So that's going to be in the works. A lot of things are going on. Of course, we have the plant board issue still hanging over us, and hopefully we'll be dealing with that very soon. We just have a lot on the table, and it's sometimes when that question gets asked, you're going to have to trigger me a little bit or cue me, because we have so many issues on the table right now.
Well, most of us have stayed tuned into some of those issues, but there are still an awful lot of people who are either new to the community or haven't quite gotten up to the latest discussions. So give us your stand on oversight of appointments, the investigation of the plant board. What are your thoughts on those issues? What's your stance? And how do you think we should approach dealing with it, coming to a resolution?
Well, I think the first part of that was my approach to composing our boards. Was that one of your questions?
Well, appointments made by the mayor. Should that have a city commission oversight?
Well, it sort of does. The way it works by statute is that the mayor actually makes the appointment in the way of nominating. And for some of those boards, the Board of Commissioners must approve for that to become the final action. So my suggestion has been, and it's just a suggestion, it's a suggestion to the mayor and to the citizens if they want to encourage the mayor to allow, through his power, the city board, the city commission members to have a greater part in that process. For example, one of the things I suggested, and I really wish the mayor would let us do this, is for each of us to bring a name to the table, an individual to the table that has particular credentials we might be looking for, and for the mayor to consider all of those, and not just that we do that individually if we want to, because right now we can do that, but that be an actual obligation, if you will, for us to also be on the lookout for citizens in the community that would make good board members, so that we actually are more highly engaged rather than just rubber stamping the mayor's nominations, or in some cases some commissioners will vote no, and I think I have voted no on 2 appointments in my 14 years, maybe more, but I think only 2. So I think that the Board of Commissioners could have a larger role in that. The mayor probably knows the vast majority of the population in Frankfort, but with 4 other board members, we know people as well, so we might all know people at a much deeper level than just one person. So I believe we would get more varied composition on the boards, one that would, where those compositions might more accurately reflect the population. So there's better representation with that method, I believe. And the mayor actually has the responsibility, so we can't require the mayor to do that. I'm just hoping the mayor will share with us that responsibility, divvy it up a little bit, spread the responsibility out. I think that makes for a good chair of any board or committee.
Now, we all are aware of the fact that there's been a great deal of controversy over setting up an investigation of the Frankfurt Plant Board's Board of Directors. What is your stance on that, Lynn? And do you have any suggestions for coming to a resolution of that problem?
Well, I seconded one of Commissioner Roach's motions back in the History Center meeting back in November. I actually made a motion back at that time, which the mayor ruled out of order. I think that we probably went down a wrong road the way this was handled. I believe, at many junctures, I believe that people's heart are in the right place. Everybody wants to see this board function better. I do. I believe that everyone else on the Board of Commissioners does as well, but I think we all have a different approach to how that might happen. But I think we went down the wrong road at several junctures. I believe the City Commission has the ability to remove, if it so chooses, based on cause, malfeasance, misfeasance, negligence of job duties. And I think it was our responsibility to determine if we believed any of those existed. I believe in this case, as in many other situations that we face on the City Commission, that we probably wasted money. We started out with a $20,000 contract, and then the investigator came back and wanted 10 more thousand, and I was notified of that one day before the report was actually due. So I believe we wasted $30,000. I believe that the Board of Commissioners has the ability and the knowledge, if we thought about it, to make a decision on our own.
How do you feel about having industrial membership on the plant board, on the KCDC? Do you think we should pursue something of that nature to bring people in from that?
I think that's a good idea, yes.
What about having county representation on the plant board? I know it's called a city.
Yeah, our county judge executive attended a meeting we had, I believe it was in December, and suggested that we include county residents on that board. And I was at least one of two, if not the only commissioner. I said, I think that's a really good idea. I believe Commissioner Roach has said he believes that's a good idea as well. I think it's a good idea to have a county member on there, absolutely.
Now, you brought up the Tiger Grant.
Okay.
For redevelopment of Second Street area. And do you have specific ideas of what we should do there? But more importantly, in my mind, is do you think there should be development of other areas of the downtown? And how would we pay for that?
Well, we've got a situation at this point where it's projected that we're going to be dipping about $700,000 into our reserves each year. So we've got to be really careful and really consider in depth how we're going to address that need at the same time that we talk about development, redevelopment. That Tiger Grant is going to be used to refurbish the 2nd Street corridor and that intersection of Capitol Avenue and that intersection there, and the intersection of Bridge Street. So new sidewalks, stormwater runoff, streetscapes, a lot of that's going to happen. We have been talking about, for a while, new fire station, new city hall. I am not sure how that's going to work. facing the financial situation that we're in, but I'm sure there will be continued conversations about that. We'll be looking at plans for that. I don't see that happening in the next 2 years. But as we have that grant, that will give us more leeway to consider what else we might do to accompany what we'll be doing with that grant money.
And do you
Other development, well, obviously we have 8 acres now that we can develop across the river. That was just demolished yesterday. 8 acres that the citizens of Frankfort and Franklin County will have a great part in determining what we do with that. And the nice part about that development is that that was land owned by the state that's now going to go back into the hands of the private sector. So we'll go back onto our tax rolls. And my vision for over there is to have some sort of housing, whether it be, condominiums, multi-level buildings with condominiums and shops at the bottom. And I think I read Mr. Sanderson's idea about having living space, residential spaces above a YMCA facility. That YMCA needs to be refurbished, redone, taken down, and rebuilt. So I think that there's opportunities there, great opportunities, and I was really impressed, amazed, a little just intrigued by how many people, I didn't go, I watched it on television, but how many people showed up to watch the demolition. And as I thought about all those people and heard about the congestion and the cars parking on properties, I thought, wow, people are really, really interested in destruction, or they're really attached to that building. And I thought, I don't think it's attachment, because when, members of our community who have contributed so greatly to our place pass on, funerals don't look that large and congested. So that's just really intriguing to me. And of course I watched it as well. But I think that's going to be a great opportunity for us to enhance our city. And I heard that tower called an eyesore. And I was also impressed with that statement, because I'm sure that back in 1972, people would probably have made comments like, wow, we're catching up to the big cities. Mm-hmm. So it's all relative, and as time passes, we make changes. And so I'm hopeful that those changes we make, and confident that those changes we make, will enhance our city.
Do you feel that we should or should not look for a way to develop a new convention center, a multi-use facility of some sort to put in there? Should we do that, or should we just kind of forego that and look to other issues to approach?
Well, I think that we have a group of citizens who led through city visions or guided by city visions that are looking specifically at what we might want to do there. We're taking ideas. We had our first meeting, I think, just a few weeks ago, and there will be another meeting probably end of April, early May, and then another one on in the summer. So I think a lot of thought is going into that. I think we do need a large meeting space. I just wonder what we're going to do on a continuing basis with high school graduation and university graduations. Mm-hmm. And I know that when I was at Kentucky State as faculty member there, we started having December graduations right there on campus, but the larger ones in May packed the convention center. So we'll have to think about where we want to put a large gathering space.
And how would we pay for such a thing? Do you have any thoughts on how we could come up with funding for such ventures?
Well, partnerships, grants, we have a grant staff at the city. I am impressed with our new city manager's ability to connect with people not only at the city level with our city partners, but with people at the state and even our national level to get grants for us. So I think that we have a very skilled staff that has the ability to find funding to do things, and I'm very hopeful and confident that we'll be able to do what we need to do. It's not going to be an easy task. It's going to be challenging, of course, and when we face this pension situation with the state that's going to affect us. And that's part of where I mentioned that $700,000 that we like to maintain about a $14 million reserves, and that's going to start dwindling down if we don't find some way to make up for what might occur with that pension change. Should that?
Do you have any thoughts at this point on how deeply that is going to affect the city budget?
I'm told that about 700,000, well, I think it's about, well, maybe, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm thinking the figure is I'm thinking it's 700,000 a year. It might be more than that.
Well, of course, that's a valid hesitation because they haven't told us yet exactly.
We have had, our finance director has given us some projections of what might happen if then. So I have seen some of those projections, and it's going to be a challenge. So we've got to find ways to deal with that. Now, one of the things on the table that we'll actually be discussing tonight is hiring a consulting firm, to identify ways that we can cut back or increase revenue. And I think as we think about that, one of the second largest expense in our budget is contractual services. And I look at all of the contracts into which we enter and I think, wow, we're spending a lot of money to have other people tell us how to do things. And so one of my positions has always been that we have expertise right here on our staff and in Frankfort. And as we try to increase social capital and those interconnections of people and increase partnerships, try to increase engagement of citizens, sometimes I think that some of those contracts might be unnecessary. This contract that we're going to consider entering into is about $158,000 to go in and study us and what we're doing and to provide suggestions for how we might do better, how we might save. In addition to that $158,000, the contractor is telling us, or the firm is telling us, well, and we want to put in a 20% contingency there just in case we have to come back and ask for more money, which is typically what happens with city government. People come back and they need more money. They don't finish the job or they need more for this or that. So that puts it at almost $200,000. Now, part of that, what we're being told is that were we to hire this firm to go in and study and tell us where we can cut and where we can raise, is that there's a guarantee that they will give us at least twice that amount in implementable changes, so that could save us, twice that amount of money, so $400,000. So the question is, do you want to spend $200,000 to save $400,000, or do you want to hope that you can put people together that we have on staff and our experts in the community to maybe find some of those areas where we could cut back, make changes, save?
And is that still an option, or has that been actually done?
It's not been done. We'll be talking about it tonight. It was several months ago that our city manager brought to us the idea of hiring someone to put on staff. I believe she called it an efficiency operations coordinator that would look at all of our departments and tell us where we might be more efficient, what we might do to bring about that better efficiency. And the conversation then led to maybe looking at a firm that might come in and do the one-time job for us. And so that's going to be on the table tonight at our work session for discussion. So I don't know what'll happen with that.
Do you have any thoughts personally and you do have a vast experience with working with city government. Do you have any ideas of where some of those cuts might be found?
My idea that I've suggested before is, I'm a policymaker, I'm a city commissioner, and we have expert staff there at City Hall, and I'll say that in the last 18 years, I've been there 14 of those years. If you remember, I ran for mayor and didn't quite make that race and came back, but I've been impressed with the quality our department heads. So we have experts there, and I have suggested, and it's not met with consensus, that we take full advantage of that expertise in City Hall and make each department responsible for finding ways that that department can become more efficient, cut costs. And we've done some of that, but I believe that we can try a little bit harder and do more of that. I haven't really decided for sure where I am on hiring the firm to come in and look at where we can do better. I haven't decided on that. I'm still considering that. You know me, I consider issues for a long time, do a lot of discussion, deliberation, get feedback from my citizens. And that's...
Speaking of which, what are you hearing from the people in town? I know they've been very quick to contact you and let you know how they're feeling. What are you hearing from them? What do they consider to be the issues?
On this specific issue or other issues?
This and any other you might...
What I get sometimes is when we spend money on these contractual services, when we hire firms to do things for us, like engage the citizenry in determining what we want, like this upcoming consideration, which I haven't gotten a lot of feedback on that yet. Most of those conversations have been in a work session. So I haven't taken much conversation on that one in particular, but I do get feedback in general that we waste money on hiring firms to do things that we could do ourselves. And I tend to agree somewhat. I think that there might be times when you do better to go outside and bring in expert consultants. And I think that there are times when you would do better to take full advantage of the expertise you have in-house, or even out in the community. There are citizens that would probably be really happy to be considered for contributing to solutions. So
I know we did, because that's what I was concentrating on, talk a good bit about potential cuts. But do you see anything looming in the relatively near future where we're going to want to consider expanding efforts of developing other areas of downtown, for example, or further areas that are considered in the city but not exactly downtown? Do you anticipate any of that?
Well, we're always looking at places, not we personally, but the city as a whole, downtown Frankfort. Kelly Everman, the executive director there, has done a fabulous job with inventorying, I can't speak clearly, buildings that are vacant. So we have places that we can redevelop, refurbish, and I think that's always going to be on the table for where can we do that. We've got grant programs. There's a grant, I believe applications are due early April right now for reinvesting in that district downtown where the historic buildings are, the Capitol. Mm-hmm. So I think that, yeah, there's always that. We don't have a lot of place to grow within the city limits. So across the river where the tower was, the convention center is almost gone, was. Great place for starting brand new from the ground up. Most of the rest of it is basically going to be redevelopment. So did that answer your question?
I think it does,
okay.
Yes. Because people are always talking about we need to. And I'm thinking, where are we going to get funding for such things?
Well, I hear, you asked the question a while ago, and that brings to mind, I do hear a lot of we need to, and we need to grow, and as I think about that, I don't really agree. I'm one of those people that left Frankfort and came back because I love it here. I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've lived in a small community in Western Carolina. And so I've seen the big and I've seen the smaller, and I'm always grateful that Frankfort is just the right size. We don't have a lot of congestion. We don't have traffic that we can't handle. We don't really have a parking problem. What we do have is a population that is very interconnected. We have a lot of engaged citizens and citizen groups. which when I came on the commission back in 2000, I wasn't sure that we were as engaged as we should be, and I think that that's getting a lot better as time goes on. We've got active groups. I'm sorry, you're kind of cueing me. We're running out of time. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Those are fascinating topics, and I hope we get an opportunity later to talk about them some more. But right now, I want you to look in that camera and tell our voters why you're the best candidate and why they should vote for you.
Okay, well, I'm Lynn Bowers, and I'm number 3 on the ballot. I'm running for my 8th term as City Commissioner. I served 3 terms as Mayor Pro Tem. I'm in my 7th term as City Commissioner. I am well familiar with the issues before us. I have a history of working on many of those issues. Some issues are brand new, some are reoccurring, some are continuing, and I think that I am one of the commissioners who makes City Commission her full-time job, and so I ask for your vote in May. I'm number 3 on the ballot and win with Lynn. Thank you.
And I want to invite all of you to come back here for more of Meet the Candidates.